Hey, friends, welcome back to yet another exciting episode of Friends of the Squared Circle. I'm your host, Cranderq, a.k.a. my real name, the number one beard in all of pro wrestling podcasting. That's self-proclaimed, so no one can take it away from me. Before we jump into our interview today, we got to make sure we promote our sister shows, Bell to Bell with Amanda Monroe, as well as Wrestling with Pride. Now we have a new guest host coming in, and that is Topanga Rainbows. She'll be joining us for Season 2 of Wrestling with Pride. And don't forget us, Friends of the Squared Circle, YouTube, Facebook, you know where to find us. But today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Williams. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Cranderq. Thank you for having me on.
We are excited to finally get you on here. I know you're super busy with your teaching and teaching lessons to Nerdy, my favorite musical act out of the Twin Cities. But we're here to talk about your wrestling fandom. Now, what is your first wrestling memory that you can recall?
Oh, man, my first wrestling memory. Well, I suppose when I think back to when Mr. Williams was just a wee little lad, I picture myself sitting on the living room floor of my family's home Saturday morning watching some of the colorful characters that filled out the WWF roster there in the early 1990s. The Ultimate Warriors, the Doink the Clowns, the Kamalas, the Undertakers, the Macho Mans, the Brutus the Barber Beefcakes.
That's the first mention we've had of Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Was there anybody that stuck out as a favorite early on in your fandom?
I always liked the Minnesota guys. So my fellow Mr. Perfect was always my favorites, as was the ravishing Rick Rude, both Robbinsville High School graduates, the town which I currently call home.
Nice.
So I've had a deep connection with them from a young age. Bret the Hitman Hart, probably my first favorite wrestler. Still, when I think back, my all-time favorite wrestler. I remember having a very special connection with him when I was the student of the week in first grade at Show and Tell, and I wore my Bret the Hitman Hart shirt and wore my Bret the Hitman Hart glasses and brought in my Bret the Hitman Hart action figure. It was a very Bret the Hitman Hart coded presentation from first grade Mr. Williams.
Very nice, very nice. And you mentioned Minnesota wrestling. I mean, you've got X-Pac, the Road Warriors. I mean, they're technically Chicago, but Eric Bischoff was there. Mr. Perfect, who you mentioned, high school companion, ravishing Rick Rude. You know, there's so many. I mean, Koloff, Demolition. You know, like there's so many great names out of Minnesota that you could make up a roster, and it would be a Hall of Fame roster. And then you also mentioned Bret Hart, iconic in the 90s. For me, I was an Owen fan because I was the younger brother. So I was like, Owen, because, you know, I had a big brother who was a jerk, and I resonated with that, Owen trying to, come out of the shadow. Were you a big fan of like the Hart Dynasty as well, or was it just mostly Bret?
I was a very big fan of the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. I remember it being very difficult. What WrestleMania would have been? You probably know this, Cranderq. The one where they were at Wembley Stadium and Bret the Hitman Hart and Davey Boy Smith headlined for the Intercontinental title.
Okay, yep. All right. I don't know the exact number because it all blurs together after 50 of them almost.
I was rooting for Bret, but that was one where my little Mr. Williams' heart was very torn because I was a big fan of both those men.
That's another guy that doesn't get a lot of mention, but yet, you know, very good at his craft. And I was just thinking about this the other day, is like, you know, if Hulk wasn't on that run for 3-4 plus years as world champion, there's a lot of guys that could have carried that easily. I was just thinking of the $1 Million Man who pissed me off as a child. Obviously, we know Dusty Rhodes, Flair, and guys like that could have easily, held the strap. But unfortunately, it was during that era where they, were just becoming their identity. As you got a little bit older into your teenage years, did you jump between WCW and WWF?
I did make the journey over to WCW with my boys Hall and Nash. So I was very much a NWO guy. I remember there was a friend of mine who rode my bus, big Goldberg fan.
Oh, okay.
All like the kind of the dumber kids, they like Goldberg and the
Yeah,
smart.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree with you there.
I was one of the smart, cool kids. That didn't necessarily bode well for the trash talking we did on the back of the bus when Goldberg was on that 150 whatever match win streak.
Yeah,
But I do still consider myself NWO for life.
that's right. That's right. Now I gotta agree with you there. NWO was awesome. The three, I loved Hollywood Hogan. Now every kid mostly was a Hogan fan, but now as we get into the stuff outside the ring, it kind of sours us. But we try to look at that fandom in the early age, but it's hard to overlook. But those three guys, I just remember when the clips were shown of the trash being thrown in the ring. I'm like, how can they do that to Hulk? How can they do that? But now I understand why. What was it about Hall and Nash that really stuck out to you?
They're just big, tough, cool dudes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the machismo just
Yeah,
oozing off of Scott Hall, big, sexy,
yeah.
being big and sexy and just too sweet. They were just they had great personas,
Mm-hmm.
and so they were really fun to root for.
And when they started using their real names too, like I was like, holy cow, this is like real shit. Like, because he's coming in jeans, he's not in his gear.
Well, when they showed up on that first
Yes,
Nitro,
yeah, it was
this,
crazy.
this is where you start to think like that this is truly an invasion. It
Hmm.
really felt like that.
Definitely. And one of the moments that I always like bring up about Kevin Nash, and I've actually got to tell him this because I've met him 3 or 4 times, is when he threw Rey Mysterio like a lawn dart into that trailer. I was just like, oh my gosh, and then to hear like the police actually showed up not knowing that it was like the wrestling event. They thought it was like a real brawl backstage. Like they had everybody like just sucked into that moment. And to quote, the 83 weeks of WCW beating WWF was just insane.
They had a lot of star power, including my guy Bret the Hitman Hart, who eventually
Mhm.
made the journey over there after the infamous Montreal screw job. So yeah, a lot of star power in WCW in those days. Their issue was they weren't building up the young talent quite as much as they probably needed to, and some mismanagement from the top.
And we go kind of a little bit of a full circle. I don't know if that's the correct term here, but like you bring up Goldberg and how the dumb kids like Goldberg,
You
and then
probably
they
like
ruined
Goldberg
Bret Hart's career. Like just one kick to the face, and then poor Bret, he's done.
Yeah. Bill
I would have
Goldberg.
bought that kid. I would have bought that kid.
Yeah.
As you're getting older now, we're not old, but like, where's your wrestling fandom at now? Are you tuning into AEW? Are you tuning into WWE? Or are you strictly? I'm mostly an indie guy. I love going to the indie shows. That's kind of where my heart lies, and where I know the most knowledge of like who's where, what's going on at this show. And as you know, on our page, we promote First Wrestling all the time. It's my favorite promotion. But where are you at with your fandom? What are you watching now?
I mean, I keep my eye on the television and all the things that are going down in the premier promotions in the country and world. But yeah, as far as where my fandom lies, I'm a big fan at what we're doing in the Midwest, particularly in Minnesota, when it comes to the independent wrestling that we got going on in this state and in this area of the country. I just think there's a lot of fun stuff happening, a lot of cool stuff happening, a lot of great talent that I think could rival basically any other part of the country.
Mm-hmm. And it's great to see because like I have a lot of friends, pun intended here, through the podcast, like Detroit, Kentucky, Florida, California, Ohio, and they say they only have like 1 or 2 promotions, and I'm like, that's it. two promotions at best in your area, and they're like, well, what do you have? I'm like, I've got like 20 some between me in the cities, and I always say it on here because it's a flex. I could name half of them and forget the other half because there's so many. And they're good promotions. Yeah, there are some that are bad, but you're going to have that everywhere, especially with the quantity that we have. But we have a lot of great wrestling, and a lot of great up and coming people, and veterans, not to age people, but like Eric and Darren have been doing this for 20 some years. And it's just been amazing. And he's a cat guy. That's so great. Like I feel like I'm in the cool club. Wrestling and cats.
It's a beautiful cat too. You've never seen
it. Is. It is. I'm surprised mine ain't jumping around in here somewhere, but I usually try to get them out because they like to headbutt the ring cam. But yeah,
they'll do that.
What's the cat's name? We gotta talk about the cat.
That is Snape.
Snape. Oh, and a Harry Potter fan. Look at that. Or did the kids name?
Yeah, well, actually, my wife named her.
Okay, gotcha.
I inherited Snape. I'm like her stepdad.
Okay,
but I am her favorite person in the house.
That is awesome.
It could actually make the case I'm the only human being on earth that she has any affection for.
Oh, well, that's great. My cats are the opposite, and my dogs, they all feature my wife, and then I'm like, oh, spare human, I will cuddle with you while mom is gone. So as we kind of unpack this, let's talk about your in-ring stuff. Not so much, the career accolades and stuff and the matches, because that's going to be every other podcast. But like, how did that start? What lit that fire in you?
What lit my fire to become a part to compete in the squared circle?
That's right.
I spent so much time in my youth watching. I mean, it's that, right? It's that you grow up. I was an older brother. Mm-hmm. I grew up doing wrestling moves on my two younger brothers, much to their chagrin. And so the dream of actually being able to compete in a real pro wrestling ring as a real life pro wrestler was always something that was in the back of my head. Of course, you need opportunities. You need the mm-hmm. right place to train and access, and that can be tougher to find. When I was first kind of looking for opportunities in my early 20s, I was good friends with Super Thunder Frog at the time, and Super Thunder Frog pointed me in a couple directions, to Chicago, to Philadelphia, but those weren't moves that I was really able to make at that point in my life. I needed mm-hmm. something more local because I had a couple things tying me down to the Twin Cities area. But when the Academy School of Professional Wrestling opened up, and I was one of the lucky ones who got there on its early days, when you had not only Ken Anderson, who runs it now, but Sean Daivari and Eric
yep.
Ken and Molly Holly and Ari Daivari, all in there, all these people with this breadth of experience, both, for WWE and the indies, mm-hmm. Able to offer all those different experiences to those early classes who were training there. And I was one of those early classes. So I benefited from that immensely. And it's one of those things where, I had my first match when I was 31 years old. And so obviously my career is not going to be as that impacts the trajectory of my career. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can still make a 20-year career out of this thing, but when it's all said and done, my career won't be probably as long as like the Riley Jacksons or the Damon Spriggles, who were beginning training when they were still in high school.
Yeah.
But I think, there were some benefits to starting at an older age, and certainly some benefits to waiting to get trained until that prestigious collection of pro wrestlers came to the Minneapolis area.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, just getting to rub shoulders with, Sean Daivari, Molly Holly, Ken Anderson, including Eric Cannon. I mean, that's a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, just under one roof. I love Aria Daivari. I'm fascinated by him because, like, I just remember again the younger brother getting to see him, do his thing, and then being that early class too. I'm assuming Top Flight was kind of in there with you as well in those early days.
Dante
Yep.
Martin was in my class. I mean, he
Yep.
had some training prior to
Mhm.
signing up at the academy, which was very evident when you laid eyes on him. And also, by the way, very evident that that kid was going to do, him and his brother were going to do big things. We all knew that years before they were signed with AEW. But
Yep.
that was another cool part about training in that facility, was to be around people that, even if they were just learning the trade, you knew that they were going to do special things, either because of their athletic ability or their personality, charisma, persona. A lot of that stuff you could see very early on, and now here we are, however many years later, and watching
Yep.
everybody having blossomed into
Yep.
what they blossom into is kind of cool.
And you mentioned Riley Jackson. I don't know what it is about Riley Jackson. Well, I mean, Abby could explain it. He's the good-looking dude coming out to Love Gun, and man, I just love some Riley Jackson, especially when he just gets talking smack. It's
I mean,
I hope.
he's a punk kid.
Yeah, yeah,
He's kind of a dunce. He could use the guidance of an older, wiser person like myself. I've tried to offer him that guidance
yeah.
several times, but those young kids, they're kind of rebellious. I've got
Yeah.
another opportunity to do it in the near future, so we'll see if the lesson I have planned finally gets through that thick little skull of his. But yeah, he's doing all right for himself. I'll give him that.
And I hope that to see him grow, and not every wrestler needs to leave their area. Not every wrestler has that aspiration, but in the fandom,
Got that aspiration.
okay, I know, like, some people like to, everybody's career is different, and I don't want to, like, just put it out there, but I'd like to see him blossom and go other places just to see him mix it up with, the rest of the wrestling promotions in the country, because it's always fun to watch someone start and to where they go. And a lot of people know me through watching these episodes that WWE's Otis is from Superior, Wisconsin, where I live. And I've never collected anybody or kind of watched their career. Like I watch his, like I try to see what's going on all the time with his. I try to get his trading cards, his action figures, because it's someone coming out of the gate, and I've never been able to do that. Plus, I work at the school where he has a bench record and where he went to, school. So like everyone knows him. Everyone's got a story, and they know I have the podcast, so they can tell me stories.
Well, that was another fun part about training at the academy in the days that I was there. And I'm sure it's still probably like this to a certain degree, but you would get signed wrestlers who would come in to check out the space, maybe even workshop some stuff. I remember being at the academy one day when Otis just happened to be there, home for a couple months or whatever, and he was workshopping the what was once called the Vader Bomb as a potential finisher. And then to kind of see him from workshopping that in this training space that we had to then seeing him doing it on television was kind of cool to like get the behind the scenes origin of that particular part of his moveset.
Yeah, I think he just popped in there a few months back too. With you got a picture with Santana. They posted up on Instagram and stuff. So, and he's a Minnesota boy. Technically lived in Superior but born in Duluth, just over the bridge. But before we wrap this up here, I'm going to hit you with a hard hitting question.
I love hard hitting questions.
They're pretty stupid. I'm not going to lie. But if you had to teach a class of, say, 3 wrestlers and a subject, who are you picking and what is your subject?
I'm teaching about wrestlers, or there's wrestlers?
You're going to have 3 wrestlers that you want to hang out with and teach any subject, like cooking or math, as like a private session. Who's in your class of 3 and what are you teaching them?
I'm going to flip the question on its head a little bit, because as much as I'm a teacher, I'm also a learner.
Okay.
I'm a lifelong learner. And the first person I'm thinking of, and I'm thinking of it because I'm looking at my reflection in my phone right now, is I'd love to sit on a Ricky Norton art class.
Okay.
Let Ricky Noren teach me the ins and outs of shading and tinting and splashing, and I mean, just that being the vocabulary that I'm coming up with just shows kind of my lack of knowledge when it comes to all things art. So perhaps Ricky Noren, the Renaissance Ricky Noren, could help me add that to my own particular bag of tricks when it comes to my pedagogical prowess. Other than that, Darren Corbin. I mean, Darren Corbin. That guy just knows how to win. He knows how to do what it takes to win. So I'd like to sit in on a Darren Corbin class, and maybe we could call it Winning 101. Whatever it takes to get your opponent's shoulders down on the mat and get the 3 count. Maybe that means bending the rules every now and then, but Darren Corbin has done that so successfully. If you ain't cheating, you ain't winning. So I'd like to sit through that class with Darren Corbin. And then maybe third, I'll just stick with my killer 3-bird trio of buddies that I got here. We'll go heavy metal lore.
There you go.
I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. I know a couple chords, but if heavy metal lore could learn me, teach me how to shred like he's capable of doing, maybe I could join him on the road in one of his bands, and we could be like, those lead dueling guitars like Judas Priest had back in the day.
There we go. Those
Love it. Learning trees that I would like to sit under, and maybe in exchange I could teach them some world capitals or something like that.
Perfect. Now, before we get you out of here, do you have any social medias that you want to plug, and anything you want to say to the wrestling world? This is the first episode of 2026, brand new year here. Let's start it out with a bang. If you got anything to throw some knowledge out to the folks, but the floor is yours, and we'll wrap it up here, sir.
Well, at this moment, what date is it in 2026? What date are we?
It'll be the week of Rest Mix or Remix.
Perfect.
So it'll be that week that it drops.
That was what I wanted to promote, because on January 2nd and 3rd, assuming that has not happened yet, First Wrestling Remix is debuting in First Avenue, a place that First Wrestling is very familiar with. Mm-hmm. Our First Avenue shows have always been my favorite shows that we do at First Wrestling. And so I'm very excited to see how we will kind of reinvent ourselves with this remixed presentation we are going to create for our fan base. So I know there's tickets still available at this moment that we are talking. I think there might still be some back for Friday or Saturday when this airs too. But if you want to see the most fun, independent professional wrestling show that is available in the Midwest today, you should definitely get tickets to Remix. Come on down to Minneapolis, the historic First Avenue, and see why that is my personal favorite show that we do in a calendar year full of great First Wrestling shows. Other than that, my socials at Bill Will Teacher on Instagram and X, Mr. Williams on Facebook. That's where you can find me and see all the other fun things that I will be doing with First Wrestling and other promotions, Paradise City Wrestling, Battleground, and the like in 2026.
Perfect. And as always, friends, one more quick recap here. Make sure you check out our sister shows, Wrestling with Pride, Bell to Bell with Amanda Monroe. It's your boy, Cranderq, the #1 beard in all pro wrestling, self-proclaimed title. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Inside Out Nutrition, for all your healthy shakes and teas and donuts. Yes, healthy donuts, as well as Superior Creations for all your custom tumbler needs. And last but not least, as we mentioned earlier, Darren Corbin, the man that knows how to win at every... I can't even talk. I'm so excited to talk about Darren Corbin here. As you can see, he's looking over my shoulder. But make sure you check out Darren Corbin on all social medias. And it's your boy, Cranderq. Cranderq up.